All right, good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you all again. My name is Tiffany Hong, co-founder at Circle Up Education. I'm going to be facilitating our meetings just for the next couple of meetings as I take you all through formulating or forming as a steering committee and taking you all through your next steps in some of your objectives as a steering committee. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to give you an overview of what we're going to be covering today. And then we'll go ahead and start with some introductions and welcoming. So let me go ahead and take over the share screen here. Oh, where did it go? Hold on a second, everybody. Aha, okay. All right, everybody. So welcome to our first steering committee meeting. We have a pretty packed agenda for our first meeting today. We're going to start off with a check-in and some introductions as a steering committee. We're then going to be talking about the steering committee objectives and the objectives for the upcoming meetings that we have planned out but don't have dates yet for. We'll do some team building, some getting to know each other. Some of you may have known each other for years, but for some of you, you may have just be interacting for the first few times in these meetings. So we'll do some getting to know each other. We'll talk about some elephants in the room, and then we'll also create some team agreements around how you all want to function as a committee in order to work together in the most effective and also respectful ways. We'll then be deciding on decision-making structure and voting protocols. And then we're going to begin our discussion about committee roles. We may not finish it today, but at least we'll get started with doing some brainstorming and then maybe give you all some things to think about before planning the next meeting. And then the last thing that we'll do is discuss some next steps and also decide on our next meeting date. So we'll start with a welcome and check-in for this evening. So we'll go around the room. We'll start off with your name, your relationship to Russell City. Are you a former resident or descendant? And also, how full is your attention gas tank percentage today? So are you 100% full? You're just like completely present, you're energized, you're ready to go, you're charged up. Are you 50% full, which means maybe your body is here, but your mind is maybe already in bed, thinking about dinner, whatever it is. Are you 0% full? Maybe you're completely checked out or just anywhere in between. So we'll go around the room, and I also want to acknowledge Regina, who's our city liaison, who you all know very well. Hi, Regina. And then we also have somebody joining us from the city as well, Jenny Chacon, who is the Diversity Inclusion Specialist or Officer at the City of Hayward. Is that right, Jenny?
Equity Inclusion Officer.
Equity inclusion, thank you, even better. So Jenny will just be part of just like observing what's happening in our meetings. We'll see more of Jenny as you all progress through your work. But let's go ahead and start with a check-in question. Name and relationship to Russell City. How full is your attention gas tank percentage today? So I'll pause the screen share so we could see each other. Let's see, I'll go first and I'll go to Regina next since you're next on my screen. But I'm Tiffany, everybody. I'm your meeting facilitator, consultant to the city of Hayward. Tonight, right now, I'm about 79.5%. I'm like mostly here, had coffee a little bit late in the day, so you're having the best of me right now. Let's go to Regina, then Tony.
Thank you, Tiffany. That was very precise. Regina Youngblood, Assistant City Manager with the City of Hayward. And I was going to go to Jenny, but I see that Michael Lawson is joining us. And so I'd like to make sure that he is acknowledged. As far as my attention gas tank, I'm going to give it a 75%. I was almost at an 80, but then somebody called me about a girls trip. And so my mind is kind of on Jamaica, but I'm coming back to here. All right, so Michael Lawson, please.
I'm Michael Lawson, City Attorney, just observing.
Thank you, Michael. All right. Michael, do you want to check in or are you just observing today?
I'm observing. Thank you.
All right, let's go to Tony and then Gloria.
Hi, I'm Tony Wynn, and I'm here on behalf of my grandmother and grandfather, Charles and Isabel Sanders, who had purchased land in Russell City, but they were unable to move onto the land because of what happened to Russell City.
Thank you, Tony. And how full is your attention gas tank percentage today?
Oh, I guess about a 75%.
Okay, not bad. Thank you, Tony. Let's go to Gloria and then Rebecca. Oh, Gloria, you're muted.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gloria Moore. I am a former resident and a descendant of Russell City. My mom and my stepfather lived in Russell City. I lived there from age 3 to age 18. I moved to Los Angeles when I was 20. And tonight I'm in Fairfax, Virginia. It's 8:45 here, so I'm about 75% charged.
Thank you. Thank you, Gloria. Let's go to Rebecca. Jenny.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Hill Long, and I am married to Arthur Long, who lived in Russell City until he was about 11 years old. He had many relatives. He told me just recently, I didn't realize that he actually had about 100 relatives who lived in Russell City. Grandparents, a great grandmother, cousins, whole slew of folks. So I am about maybe 80%, because I just had a couple of chocolate candies, and I'm very I'm very sensitive to any caffeine and sugar. So I might be like 95% actually. So I'm ready to go.
You're ready. Thank you, Rebecca. Jenny and then Marion.
So as for me, as I said, I'm the Equity Inclusion Officer for the City of Hayward. I'm finishing up my 3rd week of work with the City of Hayward. So I'm really excited to meet all of you, and I'm about 80% of where I'm at with my attention gas tank.
Thank you, Jenny. Marion and then Michael V. Johnson.
Are you talking about Marion Johnson?
Yes, Marion Johnson.
Okay, I'm driving, so can I wait till I'm almost home? So someone else go and I'll come at the end.
Okay, you'll go at the end, of course. Michael V. Johnson, then Ayana.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Johnson, but you can just call me MJ. I am a former resident as well as a descendant. My mom met my dad and they got married in Russell City. Grandparents on my mother's side, or great-grandparents on my mother's side, and grandparents on my father's side both owned land and lived in Russell City. I am about 70% and climbing because I've got my caffeine in my hand.
Looks good. Thank you, MJ. Let's go to Ayana and then Aisha.
Good evening, everyone. Ayana Knowles. I am a descendant. My father, James, our father, James, is a former Russell City resident with his family. So my paternal grandparents, and also have lots of aunts and uncles and cousins who were also residents. I am about 50%, so I will pass it to Aisha.
Go ahead, Aisha, and then we'll go to Mikael.
Thank you, Ayana, and good evening, everyone. My sister shared everything. I'm at So I don't know how everybody is at the same percentage. I am at about 80% and really depends on what the topic is. So I would say generally 80%, but you know, that could vary depending on the topic. So that's my honest answer.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Aisha. Mikael, and then let's go to Carolyn.
Yeah, hi, how's everybody doing? There's several Michael Johnsons, so to make it easier, I'm gonna just say Mikael Johnson. I know the other Michael Johnson said MJ, so Mikael is easier. So my family, my mother and father met there in Russell City. Both sides of their families lived in Russell City. And so my mother is still living, my father isn't. And so, yeah, that's my connection to Russell City. I'm 75, 80%, you know, so I'm good.
Thanks, Mikael.
Yep.
Let's go to Carolyn and then Cindy.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. My brother Michael told the story of our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. So I will just say that I'm 50%. This is the one night I couldn't make it. I'm actually hosting an event, and I'm on the way. So I will stay on as long as I can. Yeah.
Thank you, Carolyn. Let's go to Cindy and then Liz.
Hello, everyone. I will start out by saying I'm about 80%, just got off of a long meeting, so trying to readjust, but happy to be here. I am a descendant of Virginia and Reyes Pacheco, my grandparents, and they had 16 kids, so I'm here to represent the Pacheco family. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Let's go to Liz and then Mary. Michael Johnson, number 2.
Good evening, everyone. I just sat down from driving, so perfect timing. My name is Liz Sanchez. I am a descendant of Russell City, and my grandparents and my dad, along with all his siblings and other family members, were from Russell City. And my gas tank, literally, I looked at it while I was driving, is half full. And my real gas tank. And I'm actually on the way. I grabbed my favorite candy bar, Almond Joy. So it's rising. So I'm about a 60% now. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Michael Johnson, number 2.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Michael Johnson, and just call me Michael or Mike. I'm a descendant of Russell City. My grandmother lived there. She owned a home and owned a business there. And my mother grew up there, and my auntie also grew up there. Her sister grew up there in Russell City. I'm ready to go, whatever it is. I don't know what my tank level is, but I'm ready to do whatever needs to be done.
100.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Marion, are you ready? It's okay if you're not.
Yes, I am. I just made it in the house, so 5:30 is a little difficult for me. So I'm Marion Johnson. I am a former resident and descendant. On my mother's side, my great-grandparents owned property in Russell City, and on my father's side, his mother owned property in Russell City. And my tank level depends on where we go from here. I'm at about a 65, 70%.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marion. And then I see a phone number that just joined. Are you there?
I am. This is Yvette Hippolyte. I apologize for the delay.
No worries, Yvette. We're just checking in, introducing ourselves, your name, your relationship to Russell City, whether you're resident, descendant, and how full is your attention gas tank percentage today? Are you 100%? Are you at 50? Are you just checked out at 0%?
Did you ask me about my gas tank?
Yeah, like
Okay.
not literally,
Okay.
but just like internally.
Oh, okay. I'm on full. I'm good. I'm Yvette Hippolyte. My grandmother on my mom's side, I was a property owner in Hayward at Russell City. And I live in California, LA. And my tank, like I said, is right on 100, 99.9.
That's good. Thank you, Yvette. All right, everybody. Did we get everybody? All right. Thank you, everybody, for checking in. So we're going to go ahead, and if I mute you, just feel free to unmute when it's your turn to share. Just trying to block out some background noise. So thank you, everybody, for checking in. So at this point, I'm going to just share a little bit about, kind of give a broad overview about the objectives and the purpose of the steering committee, and then also what we have roughly laid out for the next few meetings together. So the committee's objectives, there's three. Primarily, the first is to just form as a group, because you all are the body who is going to help to develop some recommendations to take to City Council around what restitution looks like for Russell City. So that's the end goal. But the first goal to get there is to first and foremost form as a group, discuss how you'll make decisions, how you'll take recommendations, how you'll structure your meetings and roles, etc. The second goal is to find your next facilitator / project manager, I guess you can say, because there's about 13 of you, which means 13 different schedules, different objectives, and a number of different individuals who you're also representing as part of Russell City. So your next goal number 2, is to find your next facilitator who will help you all to kind of like organize your thoughts, to think about how you're going to take into consideration Russell City community and their different needs in order to prepare recommendations to take to City Council. So a big part of that goal will be to prepare what's called an RFP, or a request for proposal, where you basically put out a call and people can apply, but really wanting to support you all to find somebody who's kind of an expert in kind of supporting and developing recommendations, especially around reparative justice and restitution, who will help you all to kind of gather all your thoughts, take all the information, feedback, research, facts, and all of that to develop recommendations around what restitution looks like. So that's the third objective in the bigger picture, which is to work with your facilitator / project manager, to work with Russell City community members, researchers, and also the City of Hayward staff to imagine what restitution looks like and for who, right? Because that's also a big question as well, like who's going to benefit from this, who isn't. So that's going to be a big part of your objective. And then also then to bring these recommendations to City Council. So those are the overarching objectives. Regina, feel free to chime in if I missed anything or maybe misrepresented anything. No? Okay. So our tentative meeting goals with you all as we prepare for that next step from, I'm going to be helping you all with this from step 1, forming as a group. And then once you are ready to go to step 2, then you'll be working more with the city to find that, that next facilitator. But our next meeting objectives, roughly laid out, is for today, we want to start off by getting acquainted, decide on your voting and decision-making protocols. How will you make decisions as a group? How will you vote on things? What does that mean to vote on something? So that's what we're going to be discussing today. In our second meeting, we'll decide on committee roles. So how will you function as a committee? Will there be a note taker? Will there be a chair? Will there be a communications person? So we'll maybe touch on that topic today, maybe have you all think about that between now and our next meeting. And then in our next meeting, we can decide on that in addition to your meeting structures, meeting lengths, how often you want to meet, etc. And then the third meeting, we'll talk about and decide on communication methods. So how you'll report back to the rest of the community, maybe to the City of Hayward, and also how you'll communicate internally as a group. Will that be through email, a text chat, some other format or forum? And then the fourth meeting will probably be around planning that RFP and anything else that we don't get through in the desired timeline. I know today's meeting is 2 hours, but if 2 hours is too long in the evening, we can definitely change that as we decide on the next meeting dates. So just wanted to start off with a chunk of time to at least start with our kickoff today. Any questions about kind of the bigger picture, overarching objectives for you all? So this actually kind of brings us to our next topic, which we'll go into very briefly, but as a steering committee, the thing that you all have in common is your connection to Russell City. But aside from that, you all have had very different life experiences. You have different personalities, come from different backgrounds and cultures, but you're all here together today and in these next few months to guide the rest of the community in creating these recommendations for City Council. And it's no easy task, right? There's going to be moments where you disagree. There's going to be moments where you're uncertain. There's going to be moments you're going to have to share a maybe less popular opinion. So for this next part, I want you to, we're going to go into an activity called creating group norms and agreements. And you might need just like a piece of paper or just something to write with, or something on your screen also you can use as well. But I'm going to have you all think about, what do you need in order to work effectively and respectfully together? So the prompt is, what do you need to work effectively and respectfully together? Keeping in mind your overarching mission and goal as a steering committee. So when you think about this, I find it easier to kind of like think about it in sentence frames. So for example, what I need to work effectively and respectfully together alongside your other committee members is, and what this means to you is, or what this. So for example, maybe what you need to work effectively and respectfully together is, don't dismiss ideas. And what that maybe means or looks like to you is, don't just immediately dismiss a person's ideas just because it doesn't sound right or sound good. At least take some time to consider it, right? Or maybe what you need to work effectively and respectfully is, I don't know, think time and patience, because maybe you're not a person who like responds to things on the fly, and maybe you just need some time to pull your thoughts together before you share. Regina.
Yes, I was going to give the example that we just all experienced. Maybe what you need is to make sure that all the right people are in the room. And what that looks like is someone takes attendance.
Absolutely. Thank you, Regina. Really great tangible example. So everybody just take a minute to think about this. You can jot down some, one or two needs that you have, what it is, and then what does that mean or look like? Because sometimes people come up with, really great ones, like what I need is communication. But communication is so broad, right? So what does that actually mean? Maybe communication for you looks like sending out notes at the end of each meeting. Or maybe what that looks like for you is to follow back up on ideas that we table. So just be as specific as possible. And then after about 1 minute on my clock, I'll have us go around and share, and I'll type up all of your answers so we can create a collaborative list.
Are we in breakout groups?
No, we're in the large group, but people are just brainstorming, just a
Got you. Okay.
All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and pause my screen share now. And we'll go ahead and go around and share, and then I'll be taking some notes on my end and I'll repeat them back after we've all gone around. Let's see, Gloria, you're first on my screen. Would you like to go first? What you need, what does that mean to you? Oh, you're muted again, I'm sorry.
You did, okay. For me, and everyone's using tonight as a perfect example, is there are two things: respect and then taking responsibility for one's actions. And I think that I don't want to keep harping on what happened tonight with a person being on the call that maybe should not have been on the call. But I think the chairperson of the meeting should assume that responsibility.
Mm.
And I'm not sure if that happened tonight.
Okay, yeah, I don't think we have a chairperson yet.
Well, somebody is chairing the meeting. Somebody called the meeting. We didn't, we're the steering committee. We're new. Somebody set the agenda. So to me, that person is chairing this meeting.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Gloria. So respect and taking responsibility for one's actions. And what does respect mean for you? What does that mean specifically or look like?
It means respecting everyone's feelings, being careful what you say, how you phrase things, how you handle situations, just being respectful of the person on the other end, or the team.
Thank you, Gloria. Let's go to Liz next.
Sorry. I also echo Gloria with her suggestions, but the other thing is being open-minded to any suggestions or ideas, not to quickly respond or react to something that you might not like, because it might take another perspective, after talking about. So listening is probably what I would like more of, to be a better listener and to take it in before speaking.
Thank you, Liz.
You're welcome.
Let's go to Yvette.
Let's see. For me, I think let's not be condescending to one another. Let's value the variety of expertise that we have on this steering committee and realize that we're all good at different things and better at others, but collectively we are great. No matter what you bring to the table, it should be respected and it should be listened to. And oftentimes when you are used to dealing with an audience that's used to doing what you're doing, you speak a certain language. I would ask that we be mindful that when we're explaining things to our group that we understand they may not understand that language. And I'm not saying speak down. What I'm saying is speak clearly. So that we understood.
Thank you, Yvette. Let's see, let's go to Michael V. Johnson. And then Rebecca.
Okay, so I've got a bunch, so I'm going to state them really clear, quickly, and then I'll go back and maybe highlight what I mean by some. The first one is that it's important for us to listen to learn, not just to respond. The second is to stay in the room and do our best to minimize distractions. The third is wait to be acknowledged. Let's avoid talking over each other. The fourth one is we need to be careful about and make sure that we avoid assumptions, because that damages our ability to relate to others. The next one is kind of what Yvette was kind of alluding to, which is we need to meet people where they are. is something that I'd like to call the platinum rule. The golden rule says, do unto others that you have them do unto you. The platinum rule says, do unto others as they would like you to have you to do unto them. It's thinking about them first and not about you. And the final one is something I learned a few years back. It's called unconditional positive regard. It's a HR, comes from an HR perspective. And it basically says, unconditional positive regard says that I'm going to assume that the place that you're speaking to me from or the action that you're taking comes from a good place, that there was no ill intent in what it is that you were trying to do. Instead of assuming that because someone did something, they had some malintent or something negative as a space that they were coming from. And if you do that, then you find yourself in a place where you don't try to react because you're trying to come from a place where you actually think this person has good intentions and there must have been a good reason for why they did or why they said what they said. And those are the ones I just wanted to call out real quick.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Let's go to Rebecca.
It's funny that you used as an example, Tiffany, time to gather my thoughts, because that's what I wrote down for me. And I know there's a lot of us, so we have to do things quickly so we can get through things. We have a hefty agenda, and we don't want to extend the meetings too long, but like even for example, this exercise, writing down how we work effectively and respectfully and what it looks like to me. You gave 1 minute to do that, and then when we break out in the breakout rooms, we'll have a couple of minutes, and for me, that's not enough time. I'm just processing the question sometimes, and then it's time to shut down and move on. So for me, I need more time to gather my thoughts. Yeah, I'm a real feeling person, so that's one of the things. And then another thing, and I don't know if this is possible, and I understand why it would not be in this COVID climate, but I would hope that we would meet in person at some point. That would make things more effective for me. And don't get me wrong, I'm so respectful of health. I call myself actually a COVID coward because I'm one of these people who still wears my mask. I'm very safe and careful. I'm up on all my vaccines, but by hook or by crook, I would hope that at some point we could do it safely and actually meet and see flesh and blood in the real. So that's me.
Rebecca. Let's go to Michael, and then Tony.
Okay, you're talking about me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, my thing is to have notes after the meetings, and then also know ahead of time what we'll probably be discussing at the next meeting. It works better for me if I know what we're gonna go over, whatever, and then I can sort of prepare myself for that. Those are things that are very important to me. Outside, everything else that was mentioned is important also. But for me, those are my two main things: is having the notes from the meeting, what we discussed or what we decided, and then what we're going to a meeting coming up. This is what we're going to go over initially. That's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Let's go to Tony and then Marion.
Hi. Everything that I wrote down has pretty much been said. Basically, to be listened to and to be open to advice and suggestions from our group So basically, I just think that, once we start listening to each other and, we come together as a group, I think it'll be easy for us if we, can all listen and then respond.
Mhm. Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome.
And Marion, and then Ayana.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany. So basically, I go by if anyone's ever read the book, The Four Agreements, that's how I live my life. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personal. Don't make assumptions. Always give your 100%. And I think the most important part of that is understanding your limitations. So one day your 100% is way high, but the next day is not as high. If you try to push beyond that, you do yourself a disservice. I believe that with those agreements, you can be transparent, you can have honest dialogue, you can set realistic goals, and you can give clear assignments that we can all agree to. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Marion. Can you list those four again? I've read the book, and it went pretty fast.
Oh, again, be impeccable with your word.
Mhm.
Don't take things personal. Don't make assumptions, and always give your 100%.
Got it. And while knowing you also have your own limitations on the day-to-day.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Marion. Let's go to Ayana, then Aisha.
I agree with a lot of the things that have been offered, so I won't repeat any of them. I'll try and go in a different direction. One of the things that I need is to feel safe. My personal information, the things that are shared about me as an individual, my family, the families that are here. We are in an extremely digital world these days, and so transparency is an additional layer of that. And so knowing the why behind what is shared, when and how, and the necessity and potentially even alternative to that are helpful in some of that decision making. Doubling down on kindness and care. This holds a lot of trauma and history for a lot of us. And it presents differently, not only in conversations about Russell City, but how we're showing up in life during the holidays. At the end of the day, to talk about some heavy things, right? And so acknowledging, if we can ahead of time, the subject matters, because then we're able to take care of ourselves after the meeting, right? Being mindful of opening wounds or bringing something up that might not be anything until it is. And then it's like, okay, bye, Zoom's over. So would just love a little bit of planning in that care and safety of the folks here. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Let's go to Aisha and then Cindy.
I would say the thing I want to address is just the effective use of overall time management in the meeting. Would be helpful for me individually. I do appreciate the structure of meetings and mix and mingle and other creative items that are incorporated into a meeting structure. But I also am mindful of this being dinner time, this being a virtual format of a meeting. And those of us who may be in different time zones, working, traveling in vehicles, trains, or other types of transportation, and trying to participate in this space at the same time. If there is a way to honor us trying to eat and drink and participate at the same time. You know, I think it may assist in our ability to maintain our personal gas tanks at around the 80% mark for the most part during the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha. Yeah, I saw some head nods and heart emojis go up there. So I think people are definitely in support of respecting time and the dinner time and eating or drinking while on the screen, or turning off camera if you need to while you do that. Cindy?
Hi, I think we have a lot of great ways to move forward from everybody here. Honesty and trust are always most important to me. And not knowing people, it's hard to know that they are being honest and trustworthy. I will go forward, of course, believing that. But I guess in this respect, I mean more of no hidden agendas, no ulterior motives, that we're all here for the same reason. And it's important to me that we all may have different experiences of what Russell City was, whether we were a resident or a descendant, and they may be very different from each other, but collectively it's all the same, and they should be valued as such. So I would really hate to hear things that, well, that didn't happen, or that wasn't so, you know, to deny people's own experience, because it is what it is. Safety is a big issue. And no offense to Michael Lawson, but I would feel more comfortable if, when we're going to have observing guests, that we agree upon that before the meeting. They shouldn't just say, these people are here and we have to accept them, because we are forming a trusting group here. And so, again, no offense to anybody who is here for the right reasons, but we should make that decision and not someone else. And I can go on, but that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Just typing this out. All right, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and read back some of these needs that you all stated. And we'll send this out after a meeting today, just to give you all some time to think more about them. So then in our next meeting, we can get more specific if we need to ask questions or clarify things, that these can be your kind of living document in terms of your group norms and agreements and how you interact with each other. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. Okay, how to move it off the slides to a document, because there's needed more space for that. So we have respect everyone's feelings, be mindful of what you say and how you handle different situations, taking responsibility for one's actions, having a chairperson, be open-minded of everyone's suggestions and ideas. Avoid quickly responding to something you might not like. Listen before speaking. And somebody also stated, which I think was similar, listen to learn, not just to respond. Value variety of expertise that we have on the steering committee. Remember, we are all good at different things individually. Collectively, we are great. Avoid being condescending and speak clearly so everyone can understand. We also have meet people with where they are, stand alone and do our best to minimize distractions. I think that means like being present, wait to be acknowledged, avoid talking over each other, avoid assumptions because that damages our ability to relate to others, unconditional positive regard. Assume that the place that the other person is coming from comes from a good place and not ill-intentioned. Time to gather my thoughts.
Hey, Tiffany,
Yes,
on the one standalone is 7 is stay in the room.
It's what?
Stay in the room.
Oh, stay in the room. That makes more sense. Thank you for that clarification and correction. Yeah, if there's any that I didn't type correctly, feel free to just holler. Avoid assumptions. Where was I? Unconditional positive regard. Time to gather my thoughts. Time to process and gather my thoughts. Have notes after the meeting. Have an agenda ahead of time to know ahead of time what we'll be discussing at the next meeting. Kindness and care. Recognizing that this work holds a lot of trauma and a lot of history for you all. And it presents differently, not only in your conversations, but also in your life and in discussion and during holidays. So be mindful of bringing up wounds and how we go into conversations and probably the amount of time that we have. Clarity, clear written communication that is timely and accessible. I included that from Carolyn. She left that in the chat before she had to head out. Meet in person at some point to be able to do it safely at some point. The 4 agreements so we can have clear goals and be transparent. That includes being impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. Always give your 100% while also recognizing we have daily limitations. Feel safe. My personal and family information kept safe, knowing the why behind what is shared, when and how, and alternatives to doing that in some of the decision making. Time management, appreciate the different creative parts being put into meeting times, but recognizing that this is dinner time. So want to think about how we utilize our time. Allowing for eating or drinking, if we can come to that agreement. Honesty and trust, no hidden agendas or ulterior motives. We're here for the same reason. Avoid denying people's stories or rejecting their experiences. So not like rejecting that something happened and just allowing people to have their truths and have ability to decide who gets to observe and provide permission before. So I'm sure we can go much deeper into these agreements, but I also want to be respectful of our time and also the agenda that we have ahead. So I'll just ask that we pause on this and we'll send this out in a follow-up communications just to give you all some kind of personal time to look through it some more, clarify anything that you want to clarify on here, make corrections or add clarifying questions. But this is starting the process of creating your group norms and agreements. All right, so from here, we're going to go to the next part of our meeting. I think we have 30 minutes left. I feel like we should dive into decision making. Would you all be okay with that? Okay.
Tiffany, could you repeat that, please?
Oh yeah, I'm seeing the time and I see that we have like 38 minutes left, and I think a big part of today should be around deciding on a decision-making or voting structure for the group. So just trying to get consensus if that's okay with you all, if we go there next. I see some thumbs up. Okay.
Yeah, that's good with me.
Okay. All right, everybody, thank you. So the next part is thinking about your decision-making structure as a group. Let's see. Oh, yes. I think I might have had a typo in here, but I will fix that in the, yeah. So decision-making structure and voting options. So as a group, you're gonna have to make decisions, decisions on how you'll select a facilitator, decisions on what counts as a quorum, decisions on how you might need to reach out to the rest of the community. So this has a lot to do with your next steps. So in terms of decision-making structures, there's a couple of different options, right? So let's say an idea comes up and as a community or as a steering committee, you have to decide, do we move forward with this or not? Assuming that there is some discussion and dialogue about the pros and cons about things, but when it comes down to voting, what will count as what moves forward. So there's different options that Regina and I had thought about prior to this in terms of options for decision-making and voting. So one option is majority vote. So let's say we can't decide on something and we're like, okay, let's vote on it. So is it going to move forward just by majority? So whichever vote gets more, even if it's just one more than the other option. The other option is a 2/3 vote. So maybe it's required that at least 2/3 of the committee has to agree on this vote in order for it to move forward. So in a 11-person steering committee, that 2/3 of that would be at least 7 people have to agree, instead of like 4 versus 5, or I'm not good at math, 5 versus 6, it would have to be a minimum of 7 people. The other option is maybe you want to move forward with consensus decision-making, like everyone has to agree in order to move forward with something. And in order to, and consensus also means like, there's maybe different levels of agreement. Maybe people are like, okay, I really don't like this idea, but I'll support it. But everybody has to be on board. So note in terms of voting, you all, or the Russell City community in our previous Zoom meetings decided in terms of the steering committee that you all would have 11 voting members and then 2 alternates. So the 2 alternates would step in and have voting power if somebody from the steering committee had to leave the steering committee for whatever reason. Otherwise, the 2 alternates, they attend meetings, they stay informed, just in case somebody has to drop out for whatever reason, they can jump in, know what's going on, and be able to make informed decisions in voting. So, so these are some of the 3 options. I don't know if there's others that you all have or can think of, but I want to give us an opportunity to just kind of like think through and talk in maybe breakout rooms first, and then share your thoughts about what you think is best in terms of a decision-making or voting structure. Should it require a majority vote? Should it require a 2/3 vote? Or should it require consensus or some other option? So I'm thinking to start, we'll talk about this in breakout rooms, maybe for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and have each group kind of share out. Ayana?
I don't exactly remember the order on the agenda, but the elephant in the room part, is that this or after?
I was thinking we can address that after, just because I want to give more time to this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But it was originally before this. Thank you. All right, everybody. So any questions about what you're supposed to be discussing in this next breakout room? All right, so just want you to share your thoughts. What do you think for the committee, steering committee? What type of vote should be required to move decisions forward? So I'll put the 3 options in the chat box, and then I'll have you all discuss, and then we'll share out. Okay. All right, everybody. Mixing up the breakout rooms, and I'll see you all back here in about 5 minutes. So I think that's a great idea, Yvette. I haven't met with anybody in person. I'm sure the group would be open to it. Maybe there's an email thread that goes amongst you all. But it sounds like we're not ready to vote on voting process, which is very understandable because that's a big decision that kind of sets the direction and how you all move forward together. So I'm going to summarize some next steps, and then if there's more that you want to add to this list, we'll just share that out, and then we can decide on your next meeting. So in terms of next steps, what I have is thinking about, so for you all to continue thinking about what should decision-making or voting protocols should be. So thinking through pros and cons, and Regina and her communications team can maybe send out a poll just to see where people are at before our next meeting, so we have a starting point for our discussion. The second, between now and our next meeting, just brainstorming for yourself so that when we come into our second meeting, that we can propose some ideas and kind of decide on them. So what roles should the committee have? Some things that already came up today: budget person, note taker, a chair to kind of facilitate the meetings, and somebody to do communications. This next one was one of the elephants in the room, actually, which was around representation of and / demographics of the steering committee. So I think people have expressed on the steering committee just like concerns around posting pictures or sharing about their identities. I think one of the concerns behind that has been the concern that, like, is it going to seem like there's not enough culture or different races presented on the committee? Because I think there's a lot of people from the same family name or similar racial backgrounds. So that's been a concern that people have brought up. So between now and our next meeting, just maybe thinking about, like, how can you all make sure that you continue to keep in mind different voices and experiences in your process? And how might you all want to respond as a committee if this concern is ever kind of like verbalized to you all? What might you say to someone who expresses a concern that there's not enough diverse representation on the steering committee? So just something to think about. And then also reviewing group norms and agreements. Some of the things that you all proposed in the norms were very specific, others were more value-based. So just kind of revisiting that and what needs to be discussed more explicitly. Are there other things that you all are thinking about that you would want to put into kind of a next meeting to for sure talk about, or ones that you think are really, really important for the next meeting?
So, and I think we'll get to this, but part of it is the starting time of the meetings.
Yes.
Right. And the regularly, what meeting days. Clearly today was a really good example of 5:30 actually being a big challenge for a number of people who are on the committee, and perhaps considering what would be a start time and a regular meeting day of the week that would be beneficial to all of the members.
So maybe we can send that out as in a poll, just in order to get a starting point. Thank you, Michael. Aisha?
Well, there were just a couple of additional questions that I had. Or if this could be addressed as part of what you have identified. So what is the role of staff? And with regards to what roles the committee should have, is there a city staff person that will specifically be assigned to this committee? Will legal counsel be present each meeting? I mean, you asked if there should be a note taker, but will a staff, I mean, there's a range of generations that are represented on this committee, and you're asking us to take meeting minutes. But with other committees in the city, there are 2 staff members that are assigned to the committee. So how is this committee different from other committees that are within the city of Hayward? So if transparency, let me finish.
I'm
please.
sorry.
So if we are, we need to just make clear what the roles are of representation from staff. And if we could please see just kind of the timeline of this, a snapshot of what this 8 months, the 8 months of research is, so we have a better idea in order to inform our decision-making process for the other questions that were being asked. That would be helpful for, at least for me, in answering some of these other questions of what the research looks, of what the research project is. It's hard for me to answer some of these questions, with regards to voting and roles, if I really I don't know what I don't know. And if we're going to be making recommendations to city council and other bodies in the city, I need to have a better idea of maybe the depth and kind of breadth of what is, of what the researchers are doing. I don't want to undermine the research process and the thought that has gone into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha. Saw a lot of head nods on that. Regina, I think you're going to share something or no?
No, I think what it probably would be helpful is to provide the committee with the scope of work of the researchers. And again, the researchers want to meet with this steering committee, but they do want to meet with this steering body once some of these decisions have been made, so that you know how you're going to make decisions and who's in what role. And so I don't want you to feel as though moving forward with those decisions will undermine the research in any way. It will actually help to facilitate your use of the research to move forward, to get to recommendations. And so I really agree with what Marian said earlier about getting to the meat of some of these decisions. It's really a very important step before you move forward to begin to absorb the information that the researchers have and to work with your chosen facilitator to come up with recommendations. I think that there might be, so one of your agreements with each other is to not make assumptions. I think that there may be an ongoing assumption that I want to clarify, that we, the city, have more information or more of an idea of how this is going to unfold than you do. Really, what we are hoping to do is to facilitate a space for you all to make your own decisions, to decide how deep you want to go, how far you want to go in making these recommendations, which is very different from a typical commission or board with the city. A commission or a board with the city is, subject to Brown Act and has to have these meeting notices. They are appointed from the council in some way. This is different. And so the city does want to provide support to this committee. We do need to hear from you what you feel like that support is, but it isn't the same as a board or commission where there are assigned staffers to actually run back and do staff reports, et cetera. The interest here is for the city to create a space for you and to provide some resources for you to be able to make your own decisions about what recommendations come forward without tainting that with our input or work or skewing of a staff report. It's really just to make sure that it is transparent as possible and that we provide a space and some resources for you all to let us know what you think the best form of restitution would be. That speaks for the greatest number of people that were a part of Russell City.
I have a quick question, and I totally understand what you're saying. The researchers that were hired, was an RFP put out and solicitation for to hire them from a group that replied to your RFP?
No, that there was not. The previous management analyst that was leading this work, Daniel Mao, he had a relationship with the San Francisco State and he knew of the work of these researchers. And so they were asked to provide a scope of work that spoke to what we wanted them to research. And we agreed that they had the expertise to conduct this research because they've done similar projects to this.
Okay, so we'll be able to see the scope of work that you requested of them and where they are in the process of capturing the information you record. Okay. Gotcha.
Absolutely. They want to meet with you to talk about where they are. What I can provide you is the current scope of work, which I mentioned earlier that we've paused on that because they want to wait until you all are formed as a committee to have input in the rest of the research that they complete.
I just want to acknowledge that Liz has her hand up and she's had it up for a few times.
Yeah.
Sorry, Michael.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same thing.
Okay.
We're gonna go to Liz. I know sometimes when people are logged on the phone, they can't see the screen. So yeah, thank you.
My apologies.
Go ahead, Liz.
Oh, no problem. I just wanted to add to the voting protocols. If that meant like, what are the minimum requirements? Let's say there's only like 5 of us that show up at the meeting and it's a majority. Should be a minimum requirement of people to vote is my add to the vote.
Okay.
Is, I mean, condition to vote. Or condition to have a vote, sorry.
Yes, a minimum number of people needed to have a vote.
Correct.
Thank you, Liz. Gloria, and then we're gonna wrap up, everybody. I want to be mindful of your time.
Yeah, I don't want to take up a lot of time, but regarding the budget, can that be one of the topics that we discuss? Because as you stated, we're not a committee that's controlled under the Brown Act, but it would really be, I think, since everybody does have such busy schedules, it might behoove us to be able to hire our own support staff if it's not something that the city will assign to our committee. And if we could please, if you're going to, as you prepare the agenda, if you could get it out to us in time so that we could comment and we could probably reduce the number of items that are on the agenda, because right now we haven't even covered half of the items, but maybe there's a process where we can state what's most important to us and items that we need to carry forward. I think like Liz was just saying in our group, I mean, 2 minutes or 5 minutes, it's just not adequate time to discuss some of these really important issues.
Thank you, Gloria. Last thing from Michael. You're muted, Michael.
Yeah. So just 2 things. One is, listening to what I heard about the researchers, right? And what I heard was there was no RFP. There was somebody who had a relationship with someone, and that's how the researchers got selected. And you use the word, we decided what they were going to research. Right? So all of those things just, for me, just throw up red flags all over the place. So, and let me say the other thing. The other thing is, at our next meeting, could we go ahead and land on a time and a date? Because we're already 12 minutes over.
Yeah. Let me just say, I appreciate that and I can understand that. And so what I would hope that we could do is, in accordance with your agreements of giving grace to others, that there'll be some grace given to the city support staff in this process. These individuals are immensely qualified. Even if there wasn't an RFP, I don't know who would have applied for it that would have been more qualified than these individuals. And when we talk about, we decided what they would research, let me be more clear. They asked us what the scope would be. And what we explained to them is that we wanted to know who lived in Russell City, who received money, who didn't receive money. We want to know what happened, right? So you have to provide for them at least some direction. And so there is no attempt from me, the city, or anyone else associated with this project from the city side to try to obfuscate. What we are hoping to do is to tell the fullest story, the most true story of all of what we can find in the records, and also to gather from you and your descendants and relatives, so that we can, again, get to what restitution looks like, right? And so I agree, we need to try to figure out when the next meeting is going to be, so that we can, begin this work. To your point, Gloria, I'll provide all of that information in the follow-up email that usually comes within a day of these meetings. I encourage you all to please watch the project site, because a lot of the answers to your questions are there. But I am happy to create a better way for you to have quick access to that information. And I called your name, Gloria, because you were talking about staff. I have received contact from a couple of different groups. One being a church, I think it's called First Presbyterian. There are individuals that are willing to provide support to this group. I wanted to wait until you got through some of these conversations to then offer that to you. There are individuals who want to work with you to take notes. There are individuals that want to work with you to help with the technology. Even with the First Presbyterian Church, there's also an opportunity for them to do some of that care for you in terms of counseling and group settings. But I wanted to wait a little bit before offering that up to you all. But I do want to let you know that there are individuals that are out there who are interested in assisting and supporting you in this work.
Thank you, Regina. All right, everybody. So 5:30 sounds like it was too early. Is 6 o'clock better? 6:30, 7 o'clock. Not 7.
Not 7, 6 o'clock.
6.
Is it
6 o'clock. Yeah.
Yes, 6.
Okay, I know there's
6
some
o'clock
people,
for Marion.
okay, I know there's some people that aren't here today, so we'll want to double check with them. But when Regina initially sent out the poll about our first meeting date, 2 of the other dates that got high responses is Monday, December 12th at 6 p.m. Would that work for everybody?
Well, December 12th seems a long way off.
Today's Thursday, and then there's next week, but there's some information to send out and also some things to think about between now and then. But with that,
Is the 8th the possibility, the 7th or the 8th?
Let's see. Not for me, no. I have the 6th is a Tuesday, or we could do Monday the 12th or Tuesday the 13th or any day that week. 12/12 doesn't work for Gloria. What about 12/13?
Yes.
No.
So Tuesdays are council meetings, so that's going to be difficult if you want city staff to be a part of the meeting.
12/14?
How about the 13th? Is that a Wednesday?
That's a Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 14th, yeah.
How about 12/14? Give me a thumbs up in the screen if it works for you.
That's fine.
Okay, it looks like it doesn't work for Cindy. Okay, what about Thursday the 15th? Work for Michael? All right, everyone. Looks like it works for most. Michael, that doesn't work for you, Michael V. Johnson?
15th is what date?
Thursday.
Yeah, we can make Thursday work.
Okay. All right, everybody. Does that work for you, Ayana?
I just want to acknowledge today is a Thursday and people couldn't make this meeting. So it could be a similar number of attendees and similar makeup of the group. So if it is a choice between Wednesday and Thursday,
Wednesday.
Yeah, I'd like to at least try Wednesday to see if we can get more members.
Yeah, let's do, well, how about we'll send out a poll between that Wednesday and Thursday and then see which one works best for people.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, everybody. Well, thank you all so much. Just to clarify the next steps, just so we're all on the same page. So we'll send out a poll for the next meeting, whether that's 12:14 or 12:15 at 6 p.m. But we'll, between now and then, want you all to think about decision-making, voting protocols, and the minimum needed people to vote. What should the roles on the committee be? Thinking about representation and demographics and how to represent all different voices and perspectives of Russell City community members. Reviewing our group norms and agreements. We'll think about what should regular meeting days and start times be, clarify what is role of staff versus role of legal counsel being present, role of staff versus committee, clarify the timeline and snapshot of the next 8 months. Some of this will send you all just via email. We might not need to talk about. Send budget to committee, and then we'll send out the agenda, and per Gloria's recommendation, we'll have you all kind of like list out what you think is the most top 2 or 3 so we know how to prioritize what's on the agenda. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
Based on tonight's meeting, I think we won't get through it. I think it's.
Oh, absolutely not. That's why we'll need to list out the top 2 or 3. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much. I am so sorry for keeping you all later. And I will see you all in our next meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.
Hey,
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you,
a good evening,
Tiffany.
everyone.
Thank you, Tiffany, for your.
Have a nice evening.
Thank
Night,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
And Youngblood. Thank you very much.